Hey there, I'm Reverend Dan. We are Soul Evolution Collaborative, and this is Strip Down Sunday, where we unchurch your Sunday experience. So, welcome to this time for inspiration, some spiritual upliftment, and hopefully a new take on life in a very uniquely Soul Evolution Collaborative kind of way. We have stripped down Sunday mornings to offer you this streamlined yet powerful experience to bring an updated message of inspiration to the world at a time where it seems like we might need it the most. The Soul Evolution Collaborative is dedicated to personal transformation and communal evolution. So, two really quick things before we jump in to why we're here. Everything you could want to know about this community, what we believe, how to get involved, can be found at soulevolutioncollaborative.org. Hopefully, we'll get the link in the chat. If not, you can just type it in, open it up in another tab, poke around while we're here, and see what's there, see what might be for you, how to jump in, how to get it engaged. Two, we are operating on donations, strictly from donations from you, from the members, from support, from people who are being fed by this. So if this is anything that feeds you in any way and you are able to support the continuation of this community, of this message, please jump over to soulevolutioncollaborative.org to find the donate button in the menu. We gratefully appreciate your donations. They are all tax deductible, and it's what keeps us going. So, all right, let's jump into why we are here. How to be grateful when you're not. This one speaks to me pretty closely. So this is our final bit in our series on gratitude for this month. We have talked about the biology, the evolution of gratitude, how gratitude literally plays out in our biological being, in our DNA through our genes, and then the mechanisms that make up who we are, how we have come to this place where our bodies work this way. Literally the evolution of gratitude in humans. We talked a bit about the benefits of gratitude as individuals and as the social groups that we are a part of, and how our individual gratitude keeps us together and builds bonds. We've talked about upstream reciprocity, which has become one of our favorite new terms. And this is the idea of kind of paying it forward, but without any desire for recognition or without any desire for it directly coming back. We know it will happen because that's the reciprocal nature of the universe we live in, but simply to pass along gratitude, to pass along generosity, to pay it forward, to do something good for someone else because it's the right thing to do. And then we talked about gratitude as the social glue, that which continues to build the bonds between us all, that which holds our groups together, our relationships together, which holds together really the society we are a part of. And I think needless to say, it's pretty important. And yet, here we are, the end of this series, and all of this has been really great and important and maybe eye-opening, and for me, it's been kind of mind-blowing at times, the science behind all of this. Like, it's not just gratitude because we teach it in spiritual communities, but gratitude also because here's the science why it works. Here's the information behind it, and if you're like me, you can really appreciate that information. And yet, if we don't do anything with any of that information, why even talk about it, right? So the integration of that information into our experience is what becomes really important. So why gratitude? Why even look into the science of gratitude? Why social glue? Why upstream reciprocity? Why any of this? Why is the biology of gratitude important? And well, if you've had experiences like I've had in the past where it's like, don't tell me to be grateful right now. I don't want to be grateful right now. I really don't. I would imagine we probably all have been through an experience or season like that where gratitude is just not going to happen. It just really feels like it's not going to happen. It feels so far off. It feels, I don't know, it can even feel trite at times, I think. So why is it that gratitude can feel so challenging at those times? And when we are now aware of, like, even being aware of this information that we talked about this whole series, I have since had experiences where I'm like, I don't want to be grateful right now. And I think that's just being real. I think we have emotional experiences, ego experiences, psychological experiences that are all over the place. And so I think this series wouldn't be complete without looking at the dark side of gratitude. I feel like there should be like Imperial Star Wars music playing or something. The dark side of gratitude. Well, so it is potentially the dark side of gratitude. The science paper that we've been using for this series, they talk about the future studies of gratitude, and the scientific studying of gratitude being fairly new, that the future of these studies will look at the potential dark side of gratitude. And I can tell you, having pieced together some other things, that very likely, at least included in the dark side of gratitude, will be bypass. That the immediate thing that comes to mind. And I think for me, when I'm in those places of like, I don't want to be grateful, we'll get to that in a second, why that is too. But in those moments, faking gratitude, for me, when I have convinced myself to fake gratitude, feels even worse than not being grateful in the first place. So for me, and if you're anything like me, fake gratitude is not the same as initiating, like trying to like make the shift into gratitude. Like I can fake some gratitude and suffer right along with it with the best of them. But I think that's it. Like the dark side of gratitude, if there were one, is bypassing our way through whatever it is we're going through, trying to convince ourselves that this is how we create an experience of gratitude. And I think there's a really subtle difference between faking gratitude, like that whole like fake it till you make it thing. That's been an expression I've heard for years. I don't really buy it. I don't think you fake it till you make it. I think you look at what is until you make it, or whatever. I don't know, whatever, if the goal is even the same, if making it is even the goal. I think you look at what is, and you find a place to start growing gratitude. But we're not going to fake like this ultimate, like, oh, I'm so grateful for this awful thing that I'm going through right now. Because if I'm most of the time, if I feel like I'm going through something awful, it doesn't feel great. I don't feel grateful for it. So to be like, yeah, I'm so grateful for this awful thing, has not worked for me. I don't know. Maybe it works for other people. I have no idea. But the trick here for me, and this is I think the trick for this series, is in those moments when we, and this is like a fairly universal thing. Like psychology has noted, there are real reasons why we're like, no, I really don't want to do the whole gratitude thing right now. Like there are times in our lives, there are experiences that are things that are going on, whatever it is, where that's just not going to, happen. It's not going to play out. Gratitude ain't going to happen right now. Right. And so the key for this whole series, because we can talk about gratitude and why it's important as much as we want, the key to the series is to convince ourselves in the moment of not wanting to be grateful, convince ourselves or remember the importance of gratitude, the impact of gratitude, why gratitude can be so beneficial to us. And that's not to say we always have to. We don't have to find something to be grateful for in every moment that we're down and out, or even halfway down. I mean, that's not to say we have to. And yet, when we remember, when we can get into the pattern, we can more quickly start to build or maintain that flow of gratitude that is available. And there are, like I said a moment ago, there are very real reasons why we get to those places. And so needing to, having to, wanting to remember, wanting to convince ourselves is simply just the first step of getting our way out of that. Now, here's the interesting part about this is when I went through this, like the whole like faking gratitude thing, and was like, wow, this really isn't helping. I guess I kind of just thought I was being stubborn. Like, yeah, it's November. We're all going to do gratitude journals. Okay, don't tell me what to do, right? Like it kind of had that feeling like, well, it was your idea, so now I don't want to, or whatever. I don't know, right? And yet, here are so there are psychologists have found at least 3 primary roadblocks to gratitude, and they are feeling impatient, having high expectations, and or thinking that the subject is too sentimental. And as far as subject, I think that can mean gratitude can be too sentimental, like, it's November, right? Or that the topic at hand, whatever we're experiencing, is just raw at the moment, and so we're not in a place, right? And so here is the interesting thing about that. I think being real with what's showing up is way more important than any spiritual practice that we are supposed to do, right? Is being real, recognizing what is a spiritual practice. Recognizing what is, that's the way through. Recognizing is the way through what is. Recognition is what gets us to examine, pick apart, walk through, heal, whatever it is that's showing up. And so all 3 of these things, feeling impatient, having high expectations, thinking that the subject is too sentimental, all speak to this idea of having an unmet need, right? And so as humans, we have needs, whether they are physical or psychological or what have you. All 3 of these speak to having some need unmet. And so recognizing what that need is can be really, really important. And so there are times where gratitude is not going to allow us to recognize what that need is. Gratitude is going to try and jump us right over that need and out the other side. And we're just going to be grateful for it all. And there are times where that can be helpful and important. And there are times where it's probably going to be way more important to just be in the thing. And so here's my theory. That we've placed so much importance on practices like gratitude and practices that bring us into this positive vibes only kind of thing, that we either haven't developed the skills to look at the thing, we've gotten really used to bypassing the thing, whatever the feeling, the emotion, the thing is. And so we're like, no. Let us shoot right for that positive experience. And yet that experience, which we might deem negative, undesirable, we have come to not appreciate the fullness of that experience. And so what ended up happening is we've developed, overall, this is not about any one individual, right? This is overall, the practice seems to point to shooting around or over whatever the thing is. When we realize the thing is worthwhile looking at, we develop skills to be with that thing and then other things that come up. And that, actually, we talked about this month too, is a part of gratitude. That being grateful allows us to spend more time with the thing, right? Whatever the emotional, psychological story block, whatever it is, the habit pattern, whatever that is that shows up, the more we get used to being with that, the more we can actually appreciate what happens in those moments, the more we can actually be grateful for when that shows up, rather than the bypass version, the dark side of gratitude, faking it and just trying to jump right over or around, creates a whole other scenario where we actually have to keep bypassing things in the future. We actually don't develop those skills of being with the thing. And I will never forget the day that somebody suggested to me years ago, what if you could enjoy the suck? Enjoy all of the emotions, right? Like, what if this experience right in front of us maybe undesirable, but what if we could enjoy it? What if we could enjoy being angry, being frustrated, being sad, being whatever, any of these experiences that in the past we've maybe tried to avoid? What if we could enjoy them? And gratitude is actually, come full circle, gratitude is the way to do that. Real gratitude. And so here is the key. I think I already said that. The key is being in it. The key is tying this all together, integrating it. The key to the key. there are 3 steps that we can take to integrating these pieces. And the first one, and I think this is the most important one, if you only do one step, it is start small. Start small. Like if you're in the muck, don't try and be grateful for the whole entire muck if you're not actually grateful for the whole muck. Be grateful for, oh, I had a thought that even guided me towards gratitude. Huh. Interesting. I don't think I've ever had that before. I don't think I've ever had a thought that said, hey, what about gratitude in this dark moment? Or maybe it's gratitude for somebody sitting next to you through this dark moment. Maybe it is a glimpse of the light on the other side of the dark moment. Maybe our muck that we're in is just kind of like a medium muck and it's not all the way down at the bottom. And it's like, well, I might be going through this medium muck and it might be annoying, but like, thank God I have, and whatever it is that you have. And so starting small, we're not trying to be end picture grateful right at the beginning, right? Step 2 or another option you can take is to relive a grateful moment. If we're not immediately seeing something to be grateful for in this moment, we can replay in our minds some other moment that we were grateful for. And it's almost like it kickstarts the gratitude muscle, the gratitude mechanisms in our minds. And then it's like, oh, from here out, now I can see something else to be grateful for. And we just kind of follow the thread in a way that is organic and real. And then the third step that has been recommended is to be generous. That being generous is an amazing way to kind of like turbo boost the gratitude mechanism in our mind. It turbo boosts the chemicals, the mood, the whole thing, right? It starts in play. You know, if you can be generous, and if it's generous with money, or it's generous with time, or it's generous with a talent, or it's generous with whatever way you have to be generous, there is, I would say, always something that we can be generous with. And so doing that intentionally, definitely a turbo boost, right? And so the interesting thing about all 3 of these steps is, if we go back to when we're in that, I really don't want to be grateful right now, because there is some need not being met, and it's not that we need that need. It's not that we need it to be met by someone else. Maybe there are some needs where someone else is involved. However, the recognition of that unmet need has to start within. And so we begin to meet that need by ourselves. So going through the muck is how we recognize what that need is. And these 3 steps of starting small, reliving something to be grateful for, and being generous all bring us back to that truth about ourselves, where at a certain level, there is no need being unmet in us, right? In that whole, like, you know, the 30,000 foot perspective, in the view of wholeness, there is nothing being unmet. There is only us having the experience that our soul is guiding us through to be that next greatest iteration of ourselves. And it was not being unmet. It feels like a need being unmet, and yet it is really the direction down the path to whatever it is that is so uniquely you. And so these 3 steps of starting small, finding that glimpse, right, or reliving something grateful, or giving of yourself, is the pathway through that thing, in a way that also shows us the truth at the end, right? Like the light at the end of the tunnel, like, oh, Right. The truth here is my needs are always met. Right? I mean, that's the whole thing. In oneness, in wholeness, our needs are always met. This is my path right here through this. And so these 3 steps bring us back to that realization. And then from there, you can only imagine how many things there are to be grateful for. So that's what we have to say about gratitude. I think the really cool thing about all of this is I feel like this series is information that I'm going to go back and watch again and again. And it's there. It's always there to go back and be rewatched. There's so much important information, really juicy details here that back up this whole idea of gratitude and really lay out what it is, why it works, how it works, and then how do we actually use it. So start small, relive gratitude, and be generous. And I think from there, we will all walk each other through whatever level of muck or joy or both that we're going through. So thank you for tuning in. This has been Strip Down Sunday, and we will see you next week.